From a self-confessed nerd to an Oscar-winning music producer, Mark Ronson has made massive hits with Bruno Mars, Ray and Amy Winehouse, dreaming up the soundtrack to Barbie's identity-fueled world. But we all have a past, and Mark Ronson's belongs in the basement bars of 90s New York. His new memoir, Night People, is a nocturnal tale of Ronson's rise as one of Manhattan's most in-demand DJs. When you first came to the publishers with the idea, were they up for this, or was there reservation? They were like, well, hold on, this is the bit that like people don't actually really know you for.
Right. I wasn't trying to write like a whole life story memoir. It was like, this is this part that was so influential in my life. And when I first met Amy Winehouse and we sat in the studio and we were talking about what kind of music she liked. She listened to girl groups, Mos Def, and then she mentioned this song by a band called The New Birth. Now, if I hadn't spent 15 years or 10 years at that point DJing around New York, digging for records, I wouldn't have had any idea what she was talking about. You know, in a song like Valerie, the first time we did it, we did this slow version, and then as everybody was packing up to leave for the day, I was like, guys, I know you're gonna hate me, you wanna go to the bar or whatever, but can we just do one dumb version where you just play doom, 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 doom.
Well, sometimes I go out by myself, I look across the water.
What were your memories of that time with her? What was she like? What were you like together in the studio?
Well, I mean, she was so quick. You know, sometimes I think, God, I wish she worked a little slower. We would have had more days in the studio, more memories. But we really did those 5 or 6 songs, you know, on Back to Black in about a week, you know. And then I came to London, we did the vocals. But, you know, we're in Camden now, like driving around Camden. Like, I only know Camden through hanging out with Amy, you know. I know it through her eyes. How can I not think of her when I'm in this place? And, you know, I think about her a lot anyway, but I miss her as a friend. I miss her as someone I made some of my best music with, maybe my best music.
It has been 20 years since Amy Winehouse and Mark Ronson made Back to Black together. It would go on to be one of the best-selling albums of all time. But Ronson wasn't always a crowd pleaser. One of the encounters that I really enjoyed was that, and it actually sounds like a fever dream, you talked about the night that you DJ'd in front of Prince, and he was sitting on an actual throne.
Yes.
I mean, what was that like?
There was this club in the late 90s in New York called Spy Bar that was the most like ultra VIP type lounge, and yes, it had this crazy rugs and like plush couches and this throne, and I train wrecked a mix because I took out a Michael Jackson record to play, and I didn't know that you're not allowed to play Michael Jackson in front of Prince. And as I'm putting the record on, Q-Tip's like pointing down there. I'm like, oh. So quickly at the last minute, I threw another record on. One record's fading out. I train wrecked a mix, and I just feel this like thing from down there, and I look down, and Prince just like looking at me like this, like you know. And obviously, he's one of the greatest rhythmic talents of all time. So that hurt.
Seems like yesterday we used to rock the show.
Making his name in 90s New York, Ronson said he was deeply unnerved by the presence of Sean Diddy Combs, who in his words wielded a tremendous amount of power. You've been really honest about this, but obviously Diddy was somebody that gave you a big break. Mm-hmm. You know, he hired you to play A-list events, including his own 29th birthday party. Given what we know now about the recent allegations, how do you look back on that time and his legacy?
Yeah. That was the only time that I really had to come out of just like the really diary type thing of the book to just be like, hey, and 20 years later we found out this other stuff and it wasn't all gravy. So, and the allegations came out sort of halfway through the book, and I had more stories of DJing parties for him, and I was like, none of this is very funny anymore. I obviously never saw anything going on. We didn't have a very close personal relationship, but I was like one of his favorite DJs. But yeah, it was crazy to read and learn all that stuff.
After reading your book, The Guardian newspaper lovingly called you, quote, a massive nerd. Are you happy with that review?
Yes. That's the nicest thing anyone could say. I am such a I hate when people who are not nerdy throw around the term like, oh, I'm just a big nerd. Like this book, and there's so much love for music and records and the craft and even the needles that go on the end of the turntables. So like, there had to be so much nerd in this book for it to work. So that's a compliment.
You have a superpower as well, which comes to light in the book. You say, like Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Terminator, you scan the crowd, calculate risk, taste and kill potential, and you instantly know which records to play. If you look around this esteemed room here, I mean, what would you play, do you think?
Like a Prayer, Madonna.
Life is a mystery.
And even if you think you're not, the minute you hear that, life is, you're like on the floor.
From uptown funk to downtown New York, it turns out DJ Mark Ronson does take requests, if you ask very, very nicely.